Okay, now that I finished some other things, can actually concentrate on this little guy. So, as you recall, we got this all painted and ready to go. And now I basically got to start working on this canopy. So I'm going to take this off. Should come off pretty easy. Pretty easy. Oh, there we go. And hopefully reveals an interior that is clean still and not oversprayed. And it looks pretty good. I'll take a closer look at it later off camera. So now what I got to do is add my little canopies here that are all beautiful. You know, there's one. And then the main one here, this guy. This guy has to be made, has to be done. And then I got one more at the front end that has to be put on there. Now these are very thin plastic. I mean, you can see they are tiny. They are really nice. I mean, they're fine. They're just the way they are. They're in pretty great shape. However, in order to make them even clearer and also to protect them, because when you put things on with glue, especially because these might have to be put on maybe with a little super glue or tacked on, it can fog all these things up. So what I'm going to do is use some of my what used to be Future Floor Wax, and this is a very common technique to do. You basically just take your clear plastic, and any kind of canopy will do, you know, whatever you're gonna actually work on. And all I'm gonna do is take these pieces and I'm gonna physically dip them into Future. I'm gonna dip them right in there. Just hold on to them so you don't lose them. Kind of dab off the excess and maybe dab it off on a tissue of some kind. And what that's going to do is make it so you're nice and protected. So when you do, it just fits. So that when you do use glue, perhaps, to make all this thing come together, you aren't going to fog up the glass. And so I'm just going to let that sit there, let these things just dry. I know this is a really exciting video, but if I just let these things dry, then I'll probably let them dry. I mean, they'll dry within a few hours, but I'll probably let them dry overnight. And the idea is now you'll have a nice canopy that is all ready for attachment, if we're so inclined to use whatever we have. Will it be super glue? Will it not? But at least these will be protected, and they will also be incrementally clearer than they were when we started, because that I use that on all kinds of things. I used that technique on the little FW190 I just finished. I put those canopies into Future, and they clean up really well. So that's the beginning, and then what we're going to do is make before we put these on to the body here, we have to make our there's a turret, and I got to make like a little seat and something so the guy in the back of the turret can actually sit down. And that's going to be hard because it's got to fit about here and it can't run into anything. So that's our next step, is to put some interior into these essentially. Where I'm going to have guns, I got to put the breech part of the gun, for instance, in there. And then once that's done, then we're going to take these and cement them on here, and hopefully they work out just fantastically. Alrighty, so I have made this little dorsal gun position. It's made out of, this is a plastic ring that I just cut out. These pieces are brass that make the base of it, and then I have some plastic that made a seat and a cushion in there. Put a couple of doodads on the top here to make it look interesting. And I have the breech of a big old Canon machine gun here with a handle on it. And then I have around here, this is supposed to be a representation of the chute spent casing holder. And I think it went around the outside of the gun and then probably to a receptacle underneath. But I just have it disappear under the seat. You're not going to see that anyway. But that is the, oh, and then that little blue thing, I think I just made that like a cylinder. I wonder if it's oxygen, I don't know. But I couldn't find a real good picture of it. I found some model pictures of it, but nothing of a real picture of the real thing. So this is mostly just kind of looking at some drawings and looking at some models and sort of making my own thing. And this is going to just fit up into where the turret fits, hopefully. I'll probably just be taking some super glue and putting a dab of it here and having this just fit right up there. It doesn't have to hold like mad, it just has to be level. And I hope that that will be sufficient. And I just painted it, washed it, dry brushed it. And after I put it in and the model's done, then I'll put a barrel in here and attach it to this. So it'll look, I hope, pretty good. So that is my dorsal turret, and we'll see if we can stick it underneath. Then I got to build some breeches and put a breech in the rear. This is for the turret, but this is a second rear gun underneath. And then down in the belly of the airplane, I got to put a breech in that clear part so that that's ready to put barrels on the outside. But anyway, not terribly accurate, but it certainly will look cool dangling from under there, and it will fill up the interior, and it will look, I think it will look cool. All right, folks, so I got the turret, my fake turret, in there. Looks pretty good. It's glued in place, and it should hold and look all right in there. And it actually fits. In other words, it doesn't run into anything on the canopy or on the run into the pilot seat or bottom out someplace. So it's actually going to work. Now what I want to do is make a gun for this part right here. So if I put a gun back here, or at least the breech of it, then I can put the barrels on later. But then this thing is ready to actually start to add it to the fuselage. So what I did was take a little bit of sprue and played around and made a little fake gun here. And what I want to do is add on this side the spent chute case holder inner, okay? And so what I did to make that was I took a piece of solder, and put a little bit of super glue on it. And I took a piece of my thread and I just glued it right there. Just let it kind of attach. Of course, it won't do this if you're trying to film this. I should have put some super or some accelerator on there. Let's see if I can make it work without destroying everything. Probably not. Let's put a little bit of that on there. Let's see if it's stuck. Okay, I did. Now, all I did to make the sort of the accordion look to whatever is just wrap this around many, many times. And as long as you wrap it kind of close to one another, I'm just spinning this thing as I go, it starts to look like, at least, you know, it's not perfect, but it does start to look like one of those bags. In this case, this one's supposed to just go down, and it's probably either something in the corner of the cockpit area. I'm really not sure. I'm just going to add it until I think it is about the right length, and then I'm just going to attach it and not worry quite so much about where it is and if it's absolutely correct in terms of where it's located. I'm just going to go ahead and add it and not worry about that quite so much, because I'm not sure how it goes into the rest of the cockpit. I want to say it's probably was into a container of some kind, maybe underneath the guys, not sure, but I'm going to eyeball this and just kind of roll it together and just kind of see if I can make it look half decent. You know, just enough. And then I can cut it to shape and kind of form it. That's the good thing about the solder or solder. I don't know if it's solder or solder. I know in the rest of the world, except for the United States, you solder. And I think that's the way you're supposed to say it. But then I don't know if solder is solder and then you solder, or I don't know if solder is solder and you solder. So I'm going to hedge my bets and just say anything that you can bend a little bit works. So I think we're pretty good there. Not too shabby. Okay, now what you got to do, of course, you can't see it right now, but I'm just cutting off a piece of it. And now one end is going to, I have to cut it a little bit. One end's going to fit on this side. I'm going to glue it to this side of the gun, and then it will just sort of drape into the floor. And I'm going to pretend it's going into some kind of little containment area. And if this is just all I'm going to do is if I hit this with a little primer and then paint it and dry brush it and put some wash in there, it actually looks pretty good. So we're going to do that, stick this little gun into the back here, and then we'll basically hit the point of putting this onto the fuselage, which will be awesome. Okay, ladies and germs, so this worked out fantastically well. That's going to fit on really nice. And just due to fate or luck, or I've been a good person recently, I don't know, my rear gun is actually, I'm cheating. The little spent chute actually is the perfect height. I just glued it right to the floor. Nobody will know. And it's at the right angle, and it makes it so I'll be able to slide the barrel through this hole and right onto the breech, and it'll be absolutely fine. So it's actually straight, it's good, it looks cool once it's in there. Very, very pleased with how that's going to look. So the next step is going to be just to glue the canopy on. And I think what I'll do is I might glue it on with my tacky glue, or glue it on with super glue carefully, because remember we're coated with Future, and then fill some seams maybe with the tacky glue. I'm not sure. But anyway, we are so close to actually putting these things together, and then you know, I really only got, well, 2 more gun positions to put in. One in the very tip part of the nose that's going to go up here, and then one underneath. But these are the 2 that are going to be the most seen. Although the one in the front is the same, but they'll do the same procedure for the front, build a fake breech, and then put a spent chute attachment on there. Pretty cool. All right, so I got the canopy on. I did use super glue, and it seems to work fine. You can see there's some touch up here and there to do around the edges, but you can see the machine gun areas through the canopy, which is cool. Everything looks pretty straight. This side on the nose, I don't think you can tell, but there's going to be some, I'm going to need some work on that front part there. But overall, it looks really, really good. And it's really cool that you can see through and see all the stuff that you worked hard on. And now the next difficult thing will be, can I will fit the rest of the canopy on, but can I make the frames look good? So all I'll do is play around with finishing these edges in a couple places, and then I'll start making those frames, and that's where we'll pick up next time.